Glen Gould, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
What is, for those of you that aren't watching, Darren's pointing at the video camera like, did you turn it on? Yes, I turned it on. So I got to start before we get into this funny story. So Glen was one of those guys. He did the Be on the Show link.
Yeah.
Reached out to him, started talking to him, got everything set up. And I told my wife, Kelly, we have a real estate business. I told her, she's like, who you have coming on the show this week? I'm like, oh, this guy named Glen Gould. She's like, does he own a dry cleaning business? I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh my God, I was showing him houses last week.
She sure was, yeah.
I called Glen. I'm like, wait, is that how you found out about the podcast? He's like, no way. So
no, actually, my son found it online and forwarded it to me.
Hilarious. So within 1 week, Kelly's showing him houses, and then he's talking to us about being on the podcast. So big, small world. Pretty
Absolutely.
Funny.
And he found us on Instagram, of all places, right?
Yeah.
Well, he's young. Look at him. He's way younger than us. So good job, Darren.
He's tech savvy.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, he's not like third grade young. I mean, he's 25.
That's young.
25, yeah.
There's no way.
No, you're that old, dude.
Wow.
All right. So before we get into the podcast,
It'll pay off later in life. Trust me.
We've got to give a little shout out to the official beer of the Beer and Business Podcast, Lion Creek Brewing. Today we are drinking First Crush and Chinchillin, two of my favorites.
Yes.
So Mr. Winnie and I have First Crush, which is a tropical style IPA.
No, actually, I just finished my First Crush. Now
Did you even taste it? Like, how fast did you drink that?
it's delicious.
He paced himself.
I did. Yeah, it was much. Just sweet little sips.
Yeah, just a. Can I have another one? And you guys have Chinchillin, which is a session IPA. And Glen, you like IPAs, so cheers, boys.
Absolutely.
Cheers. That was your fault.
Oh, that was so good.
I saw a little spill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's called waste. So, Glen, this is first time drinking Lion Creek?
It is.
Yeah? What do you think?
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's really, really good. We expect you to buy lots now.
I will.
So, Glen, you are kind of a serial entrepreneur. You've owned several businesses. You are also the director of like small to medium business in the Atlanta Metro Chamber,
Correct.
if I remember correctly. Yep. And you've also written today, you came in bearing books, and I didn't realize you've written 5 books, which we'll talk about today too. So really interested to talk to you about a lot of stuff. But one of the first things I'd like to get into today is just what's going on with small business given COVID. And now I'm hearing, you got states like I heard California went back to phase 1 on shutdown.
Right.
And I had 2 things happen to me this week that really kind of got me wound up and I think illustrate the need for us to give some love to small business and entrepreneurs. First one. So how many times have we talked about like shadow banning and, all that kind of stuff?
Did it happen again to us?
No, not to us.
Oh, okay.
This is hilarious. So I've talked to Kelly, my wife, about this many times. Well, she shared a video on Facebook. It was one of those that was uploaded through Facebook, and she shared it. And it was a doctor talking about COVID-19, and it wasn't a scare video. It was, hey, here's the facts. Let's be reasonable type of videos.
The female?
The
female one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What doctor?
I forgot, but I watched
I'll find it.
Anyway.
Doctor, you're not going to find her much more anymore.
Oh, yeah. I can find it because it's still out there in one place. Dr. Kelly Victory.
Mm-hmm.
So she put this video out there, right? Kelly shares it, and then the next day it's taken off Facebook. She's like, I can't believe they took it off. And I'm like, yeah, they've been doing this. I've been telling you about this for a year. Yeah. But all of a sudden now she's like, wait, they actually do it? Yes, they actually do it.
Did she ask you to make her a foil hat?
Well, now she's paying attention. It's funny. You hear about this stuff. It's kind of in one ear and out the other until it happens to you. And again, I watched the full video. It's still out on YouTube. If you want to look for it, look for Dr. Kelly Victory. It may still be there. YouTube may have taken it down now.
Well, after you just said it, it's
sure.
gone.
From one shadow banner to another, you're done. But it was one of those. It was totally reasonable. Got taken down. The other thing that happened to me is I was in a small business this week, and I was talking to the gentleman. I said, "Hey, how are things going?" And he's like, "We're surviving." He's like, "But we're down 90%.
Wow, year
over year." Oh man, that just hurt my soul. I'm like, good God. And so, I said this for weeks. We're not out of the woods.
Not even close.
No. And I'm worried about, overreaction and some of the things that are going on. And Glen, just curious. What are your thoughts? You've been around a lot of businesses, not only your own, but also through your affiliation with chambers and some of the other work you've done. are we giving small businesses a fair shake right now?
Well, I don't think so. I think that, small business owners are the eternal optimists, right? They're very enthusiastic. They have a lot of belief. They wouldn't be doing what they're doing if they didn't. And the thing that worries me the most about small business right now is the unrealistic expectation that I'm going to survive when they're probably not.
Mm-hmm.
A good example in our industry, the dry cleaning industry, one of the industries I'm in, we're expecting somewhere between 30 and 40% of the dry cleaners in the United States will fold in the next 12 months.
Oh my God.
And the
I like how you
reason,
use the word fold,
like as
dry
in,
cleaning.
yeah, yeah, there you go. No, they won't do wash and fold. They'll actually close their doors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not funny.
Darren
Darren.
Flanagan.
No,
everybody.
it's funny.
Please send your email to
I
Darren.
think it was funny. It's true, but and the reason is because most of them are really they're borderline businesses anyway. I heard a quote that really kind of stuck with me when this first started, and that is that a crisis tends to accelerate whatever was going to happen anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mhm.
a lot of these businesses are hanging on, really just kind of running a job for themselves or maybe a couple of family members, and they don't really have the infrastructure there to run a business. And when something like this happens, there's no income for the owner.
Right.
And so, and the bad thing for a lot of the small businesses tend to be people who are going to do everything they can to take advantage of the tax code, not have income at the end of the year. Well, guess what? All of the benefits from the government were based
Yes.
upon you having income.
Right.
If you didn't have salary, pay employees on payroll, you didn't get PPP. If you didn't have sales, you didn't get EIDL. And so I think there are a lot of businesses that are in very big trouble. I really do. It's much worse than it was in 2008 when we experienced the downturn then. And
Mhm.
I went through a hurricane in 2004, and it's totally different. So
I'm so glad you said that, because this is one point that we've not made talking about on the podcast, but I was actually talking to a friend about this. And it's so short-sighted that we did these programs and didn't use the baseline as revenue, because revenue is what dropped, you
Right.
know? And it's just shocking to me that we would use income as a barometer for how much money you would qualify for under these programs. Because you're right. I mean, you can have one business that brings in $100,000 in revenue and makes 80 at the end of the year. You can have another business that brings in $1 million and makes 80 at the end of the year.
right.
But but if they're both down, 50% in revenue, who needs more money? Well, duh, right? It's obvious. But again, these are programs being written by politicians that have never been in business, and we know how that
Well, it's
goes.
the same point. I mean, when we talked to Ashley a few weeks ago, it was the same thing. We were talking about what the average restaurant runs on a 5% profit margin
Yeah.
at the end. And so
Right.
you're pretty much stating the same fact. It's like, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
And so
but here's
this just speeds it up. And that's,
But here's the one thing that I think about with that, because you're right. You talk about restaurants, average of 5%. That means some are lower.
Mhm.
But what I worry about is, like, there was one that closed not that far from here that they were in their second year, right? They
Right.
were doing really good. It was packed all the time, but they were in this really fragile state where it was like nip and tuck. And, if this would have happened 10 years from now, they probably would have survived no problem, but they got hit with timing.
Do you think it was, and this is hypothetically speaking, do you think maybe they just used it as an excuse to close? Like they may have been running
No,
barely, but
because I know these people and
Yeah.
they put their everything they've ever made into it. So to close is just,
I'm thinking I know which restaurant you're talking about.
I don't want to name it.
No, I don't
but
either. And I won't even name what town I think it's in, but
Yeah.
but I think I know who you're talking about. And they had a lot of very loyal customers, a lot of people who really loved them.
I know.
A lot of people talked great about them. A lot of people that were regulars.
There was heartbreaking. I mean, you like when they made the announcement on social, I mean, people were like crying.
Right.
I told my kids actually were like devastated.
I wonder
Yeah.
if they could have, I mean, if they
Yeah.
just like pleaded to their patrons, they may, the patrons may have rallied and helped them get through.
Yeah,
it a
I don't
little
know.
bit.
And that's
There
not
could have
really
been
the
some.
point that I wanted to
Right.
make. The point is, going back to that inevitability,
Right.
there's probably, pick the industry. There's weaker players, and this is gonna, this is the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will.
Right.
But there are also many others that are just getting started or in that fragile state where they're in growth. And, I've
Right.
been down this road where
You're-
cash flow is so tight.
Sure, you're reinvesting everything
Yeah.
in your business. You haven't like you said, you haven't taken a profit yet. So
Yeah, it's just nuts.
So were you in the real estate industry in 2008?
My wife was.
Okay. So, in 2008, when that happened, really, there were just a couple of verticals that got hammered. The banking industry, the mortgage industry, the real estate industry, and the weaker of the group are who fell off. The people who really came in because it was easy, and I think we had kind of gotten in a point where success was looking like it was easy, and so this is a stark reminder that it's not so easy.
Yeah,
Sure.
just like after the tech boom and bust, it didn't matter. You could just throw your money into the market and, oh, look at me, I'm an investor. And it's like, boy, watch what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Look at that bubble.
Darren, it feels like it's 90 degrees in here.
I can only do so much.
Can
I'll
you,
turn
like-
it down
I'm
a little
doing
more.
pretty good.
Really? Am I having hot flashes?
I don't know. I think I'm pretty good.
Probably at
Shit,
that
it's
age.
me?
You going through the big change?
I must
Turn
be.
it down a little more.
Then again, when you're in a dry cleaning plant, 95-degree weather already, and
Right.
It's like, oh, wow.
anything feels great.
It's 88 and 100% humidity. It feels great.
Exactly.
So go ahead.
No, so dry cleaning they're considered an essential business, right? You weren't forced to shut down, but your customers just went away. Right?
Yeah, and so that's one of the things that that you look at, and everyone kind of understands intuitively that what happens to somebody else is going to eventually affect you.
Sure.
But for us, we were an essential business. We still had some business, but like, for example, here's the thing you wouldn't think of: we do a lot of medical. We lost a lot of business because they weren't doing any electives. They weren't doing any regular screenings. The dentists weren't working. And we do a lot of airline. Nobody's traveling.
Hotels. It's just kind of compounding. Boom, boom, boom.
So we were fortunate in the fact that we weren't dependent upon across the counter traffic. We go to people's homes and offices.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still there every single week reminding them. We're still, they know that when they do go back to work that we're there. So that's going to be an advantage eventually. But unfortunately, people aren't wearing anything, even in the Zoom meetings, they're
PJs.
A lot of people are opting for no screen, right? And
Pants.
Yeah.
I can't get up because I'm not wearing pants. I have to stay seated.
Yeah.
So I want to rewind a little bit. You're a serial entrepreneur. What kind of got you into being in business for yourself in the first place?
So when I was very young, 7, 8 years old, my father was the manager of a Gibson's department store, which
Oh my gosh.
back then was, kind of like you had Kresge and Gibson's, and Walmart wasn't even on the radar.
Mhm.
And I was up in Smyrna. And so I was able to go over to the store and buy candy by bulk, buy the bags of candy. And I would go back to my apartment complex, and I would take underneath the stairs in our apartment complex, and I'd be underneath the stairs. They didn't have bushes back then. And I would sell candy like I was
Like out of a trench coat?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Hey,
I got
kid,
Tootsie
hey,
Rolls.
Hey, kid, look what I got.
I got
some-
sugar babies.
Yeah, sugar. Careful now.
Yeah, bazooka.
Not those sugar babies, the actual candy.
So anyway, I kind of got the bug then, and I always kind of enjoyed selling, and when I got,
But you got out of the illegal enterprises, right?
Yeah,
Now
I got-
you're into
yeah.
legal businesses,
right, exactly,
Okay, that's good.
absolutely, yeah. So after I grew up a little bit, went to work for some folks, and I found out that I'm not very employable.
It happens.
I struggle having other people tell me what to do. And so after I got out of high school and pretended that I went to college, I majored in golf. I got into the golf business, and I basically ran golf shops and taught golf lessons, and then I was a sales rep. And then after that, it was kind of like one day I woke up and I had to do something for a living, and I just leaned on what I had ever done before and just kind of used leverage with people I knew and started these businesses based upon access to things that other people didn't necessarily have because they didn't know these people.
That's great.
Mhm.
So
What was your first business after golf?
After golf, my first business was with my brother, and it was a janitorial supply company.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. You did a stint with the Atlanta Chamber
Right.
Metro. You were there for 5 years. Is that right?
4.
4 years.
Yep.
So what kind of things, I mean, I think that would be a fascinating position, you know, because you're getting access to a lot of different types of businesses. Did you walk away from that? I mean, I know you're unemployable, right?
Yeah.
So you had to go start another business.
Right.
But did you walk
Well, they
away
invited me too.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then probably told you to leave after a while.
They invited me to go be successful somewhere else.
Nice. So did you walk away with any nuggets of wisdom getting to work with all those different types of business?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's amazing what you learn from people that you have access to. And in the Chamber of Commerce world, my first job in the Chamber of Commerce world, I was the president of a small chamber in Florida, Punta Gorda, Florida. And it was just after Hurricane Charlie had come through. And my job was to kind of revitalize the business community and bring some hope to the area. And I'll never forget it. I started my first day of work was July 4th, Independence Day, right? Kind of odd. Mm-hmm. It's my wife's birthday also. So, but that's the day.
Her birthday's on the 4th of July?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I decided to go to work the first day, and no kidding, you know, the day before I'm nobody. And that day I get a call from the mayor. Yeah, so I mean that's the difference when you're in the chamber world.
Wow.
You have access to people. You just, I mean, I've talked to senators and congressmen, and you know, and I haven't had the privilege of a president yet, but you know, I've had access to a lot of people. There's a story in that book I brought you about spending 45 minutes private conversation just by accident with Steve Forbes. And
Wow.
You know, so you know, you have access to people, and if you don't listen and learn from those people, you're a fool.
I have a feeling you may end up talking to a president before the podcast is over.
It usually happens. We kind of egg him on. If he goes 1 week without doing Trump, he's kind of a sad.
Oh, okay.
Well, and my wife hates it, so I usually never miss an
So
opportunity.
you have to get it in here instead of doing Trump at home.
She listens to the podcast. So, Huddy, this one's for you, frankly. Okay, love you.
You're pretty good at that.
So you're in. I know your business is down, and I want you to talk a little bit about your business. You got a different model, right? You guys do pickup and
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about your business model, how you got into it, and then I want to talk about where you guys are at now with COVID.
Okay. So as I indicated, Metro Atlanta Chamber invited me to go be successful somewhere else. They just didn't tell me where. And well, they told me where, but we won't say that.
Oh, there's no businesses in hell.
Probably a family. Exactly. Oddly enough, right? But
I've been invited to go there too.
Just earlier today.
So for about 4 months, I floundered around, didn't know what to do. And we'd owned, my family had owned a dry cleaning pickup and delivery service in Florida. And my wife one day came in and I'm sitting at my desk and she said, "Hey, cowboy, guess what? We've got to do something. And we're going to do a dry cleaning pickup and delivery service. I know you don't want to do it, but we're going to do it." And I said, okay, because I didn't have any other better ideas. And so we, wrote a sales letter, and it was terrible. And so I bought a pre-packaged program from somebody, and we went out there and we just started dropping bags on people's homes and picking up bags of clothes and starting our business. And the beauty of it is that we didn't have to have any infrastructure. So we would, literally pick up clothes from somebody's house, take them to a dry cleaner. The dry cleaner would clean them, give us at a discounted rate, and then we'd take them back to their house. And between that time, we had billed their credit card. So we had the money to pay the cleaner on Friday, and we made the spread. And when we first started doing it, we wanted to be off on Friday. That was our deal. We don't work Fridays. Yeah, that didn't work out so good.
Lasted about 5 minutes.
New
Right,
business.
exactly.
I'm establishing my 4-day work week. Yeah, that's not what's happening.
Tim Ferriss says it works in 4 hour.
Yeah, Tim
But
Ferriss
he
can
does
go to
it
hell.
4 hours.
Right. But so as we started to grow, we just weren't growing quite fast enough to get out from under the problems that are created when you lose your job. And the Noonan Coweta Chamber president here called me, and we had talked before about my being their sales manager. And she said, "I've got some money to do this." And I said, "Is there any chance you got 2 months worth? Because I need to be paid in advance." And she said, "Sure." And so I started doing the sales manager job for the Noonan Coweta Chamber. And 7 months later, she invited me to be vice president and move down here. And when we did and I promise I'll land the plane here. When we did, we were fortunate. It was just about the same time that CTCA Cancer Treatment Center was being built. And my wife went to a lunch and met the right guy at the right time, and they invited us in to be their dry cleaner of choice. And we got so big that we had to sell our Atlanta route and focus strictly on the Southern Crescent down here. And as we continued to grow, eventually I had to leave the chamber job because we just needed me in the business. And so that's kind of how we ended up. And our whole focus was going to be that we would just do pickup and delivery. That's all we wanted to do. We wanted to lean on the infrastructure that was already out there to have the cleaning done. And what we didn't realize is that eventually you break the vendor. Eventually you're so much of their business that every time you show up, you're eating into their profits, because they have to give you a discounted rate. And
Sure.
so their percentage continues to drop. And eventually we just had to build our own plant because of it.
That's awesome.
Now, as a dry cleaner, you're the middleman for me,
Okay.
right? And so I see that you're all of a sudden you're growing and growing. You got more stuff coming in every week. Did they sign an NDA with you that they couldn't like do their own thing then? I mean, if I see you doing it for me and I'm like, seems like it's a success, why would I not just do this on my own and create my own department? Or did you just say, hey, if we do this, you can't have your own delivery business?
So this will surprise you, but we encouraged our vendor to start his own pickup and delivery service.
Really?
He wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't do it.
He had a small one up in Atlanta. So when he wouldn't grow, and you're either growing or dying, right?
Sure.
So we convinced him, hey, listen, we'll do your pickup and delivery in Atlanta.
Right.
Just stop doing that. We did that for 1 week and he just didn't like it. Dry cleaners, they are very good at running plants. They're not typically good at marketing. They're not typically good at customer relations for the most part, but they're very good at operations. And that's why they own dry cleaning plants. Our strength is marketing. Our strength is customer relations or client relations. So
I guess that's kind of the same thing as Grubhub. If you don't, why have a delivery service for my restaurant when I can just use Grubhub or somebody else to do it? So that makes sense.
sure.
But eventually you guys got to the point where you needed owner's economics on the operation side. And I'm assuming your operating margins got better when you started your own plant.
So they are now.
They are after you figured it out.
Yeah.
Damn, this is complicated.
Your wife didn't invite you to go work somewhere else, huh?
No, not yet. But there's several times she's invited me to go somewhere else, but not work somewhere else. But it's funny because we were fortunate that we were able to build a plant pretty quickly. My brother's still in the business down in Florida, and he had some equipment that we were able to acquire at just the right price. And we never dreamed how expensive it would be to find people to actually do the work, install it. And then the hard part, it was last year. The hard part was finding people to work. And now it's funny, it's hard to find people to work because the people that are on unemployment, they make far more money than I can ever pay them.
Yeah, it's crazy. What a weird problem.
No.
But it's like you could see it coming a mile away.
Sure.
Yep.
Oh, don't get me on that soapbox.
That's all over though this month, isn't it? The end of this month.
Don't count on it.
Yeah, I mean that's the original program, but I would not at all be surprised if it gets fired back up, especially when you got big states like California going back to phase one.
Well, they've already. I mean, the first thing they're doing is looking at another relief program. I mean, the United States of America is addicted to relief.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. You got to pass the
Glenn,
bill
I
to
have
see
a
what's
really
in it.
serious question.
Yeah.
sure.
Would you like another line?
Of course I would.
Same thing?
Please.
You got it.
So what got you into writing? You wrote 5 books.
Yeah. So a number of years ago, a friend of mine and I were going around training chambers of commerce on our belief in how chambers ought to work and how people network. And we used to have this program. It was called Is Your Networking Working? And all the experts told you, well, you got to write a book because you got to have, that's your business card. It doesn't have to be a good book, just write. And so we literally took our seminar.
Why did you look at me, Mr. Winnie?
Because you kind of gave me the same when you
I
wrote
was
yours.
just thinking of Jake's book.
Hey, look.
It was a good book.
It was
No
a good
respect. No respect.
Jake, let me help you out with something here,
Yes.
okay? Do one of these guys have a book?
Neither.
So you
Certainly
look at
don't.
him and say, my book that sucks beats the hell out of yours.
Actually, his,
That's
his-
right.
his book doesn't suck.
It's
actually
really good.
really
Yeah.
good book.
I'm sure it is.
Thank you, Darren. I'll pay you after the show.
So anyway, we decided to take our seminar and literally have it transcribed into a book. That was our first book.
Okay.
And then the second one was we need something better than this. So we just did a simple 101 networking nuggets book, and it sold really well. It was targeted at chambers. We would sell it to the Chamber of Commerce in order to come speak, that kind of thing. It worked out really well. And we were doing these seminars pretty much across the Southeast, and we did a couple of national programs and things like that for the American Chamber of Commerce executives and Economic Developers Conference and things. And Ben, my speaking partner, had this line in the presentation where he'd say, so you pick up the phone, you invite them out to a cup of coffee at Starbucks, and somebody walked up to us one day and said, hey, do you guys have a relationship with Starbucks? And we said, no. And I said, well, you should. And duh. And Ben's
better than the lawyer that said, well, you need to cease and desist using Starbucks.
Yeah, right. Well, we're coming to that.
Shit, sorry.
So anyway, in the meantime, I had written Malcolm Gladwell and asked if I could write a book called The Tipping Point of Networking. And their attorneys went berserk on me. I mean, they just went nuts. And they told me that I couldn't even utter the words tipping point from the stage. I mean, and I'm saying, I just want to recommend a good book. What's wrong with you?
When did tipping point become intellectual property?
It is the intellectual property of Malcolm Gladwell.
That's so dumb.
So anyway,
he didn't invent it. He just wrote a book called Tipping Point.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, where do you think he got David and Goliath from? I mean,
I think the Bible is
the Bible's
copyrighted by him
sue
too. No, he owns the Bible. So
not even the Vatican could
Here
sue
it
him
comes
for
from the
that.
Vatican.
Yeah. So
and they've got great lawyers.
They do, no doubt. So we decided to write a book, and our whole strategy was this. Ben knew about 70 people that worked for Starbucks in various different roles, and we wrote this book called Meet Me at Starbucks, and we Federal Expressed it to Howard Schultz on his birthday, and we sent it to every one of the people he knew, and we did all sorts of things, and we had a plan. Our plan was very simple. If they buy it, well, that back then there were 16,000 stores. They're going to buy at least 3 books a piece. That's 50,000 books. We're going to make some money. We're going to be famous. If they don't buy it, and by now I'd gotten pretty good at writing press releases, I had written a press release ready to release because I think they're going to say cease and desist. And the title of the press release was Mega Coffee House Wants to Grind the Little Guy. Okay, so
that could be interpreted in so many different
Right.
ways.
I never thought of it that way.
But that's
I
a great
like that,
thing.
though.
Right.
Yeah.
So we had it covered if they bought it, and we had it covered if they didn't buy it. Well, I'm obviously not rich, and I'm not famous. So what went wrong?
You should have just contacted
Cease and desist.
Howard.
No,
Right.
No?
they didn't. Otherwise, I'd make a coffee house wants to grind the little guy.
They didn't
happen
respond.
either way. They didn't respond.
And we
Those bastards.
were not ready for
Wow.
nothing.
Null and void.
Right. So the big lesson I learned there was you always have to be ready for people to do nothing,
Huh.
because that's
Wow.
mostly what people will do.
That's shocking.
Interesting. Yeah, really.
I'm blown away. I can't believe they didn't respond at
Well,
all.
maybe they liked it, but they didn't like it enough to.
Oh, it was
No, they probably just.
it was completely wrong for Starbucks.
Well, they probably read it and
Oh,
went,
yeah.
yeah, that's no threat to us.
He probably had like a full 20 by 20 storage room of gifts that got mailed in. Like,
that he never saw.
Mr. Schultz, would you like to see your birthday gifts this
You
year?
said that one, your 101 Nuggets,
No.
network nuggets, that was one of your, well, this is the next one, right?
Right.
Okay. Which one was your bestseller?
The 101 networking
The
nuggets is the
101
one. That,
So-
yeah,
And then the book that you brought us,
$1 Million Meetings.
I'm getting it out so I
Yep.
can show it on the.
You want me to hold that
Camera.
up over
Yeah.
that thing?
I'm excited to read it. $1 Million Meetings. What's the high level Reader's Digest version of this?
So
Right, you.
the Reader's Digest version of this is when I first went to my first Chamber of Commerce meeting.
Large print, Mister. When
Yeah,
you can get
of
through this
course.
quick.
Thank you.
That's right.
In my eyes.
The lady who invited me, her name's Kathy Lehner, and she's now the Venice Area Chamber of Commerce president. But before that, she was a realtor for Sotheby's. And she invited me to the Chamber of Commerce meeting. When I got there, she walked up to me and she said, "Who do you need to meet?" And I said, "Gosh, I don't know. Never thought about
Great
that."
question.
Right? And so that book is a journey of how do you get to meet and become influential in any environment. It's based upon our experience in Chamber of Commerce world, but it really applies to virtually any environment. How you can connect with people to get to know who you need to know and who you want to know. How to identify who you want to know. And then the back part of the book is a bunch of stories about people that I've met and the lessons I learned from them as I met them.
It's interesting that you say that because Darren and I are in a networking group,
Mhm.
And one of the things that we always talk about is who are the industries that would help you the most if we were to bring somebody else in,
Sure.
and it makes you think about where do my biggest contacts come from, and it's one of those questions, honestly, that for a long part of my career, I never thought of. It's like,
Right.
hey, if you know anybody looking for XYZ, have
Yeah.
them call me.
The only person anybody knows is nobody.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But then if it's like, so if you're a plumber, well, what trades would you want to be associated with? Well, I want to know the general contractor. I want to know the real estate agent. I want to know, and you kind of go down the
The
list, and all of a
kitchen
sudden,
and bath designer.
right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Exactly. And so then you start thinking, well, when that question, who can I connect you with? Who do you need to meet? Well, do you know any good real estate agents? Do you know any good remodelers?
Right.
And that helps
Yeah.
because, that's the thing. We're all dumb. Like we all get really stupid, and somebody comes up to you and they're like, hey, I'm new to town, and I'm in XYZ business. And you're like, oh, great. Well, let me introduce you to Mr. Winnie. And, and you're just like, you're not even thinking. But if they came up and said, hey, listen, I really need to meet somebody that's in, the dry cleaning business. Oh, Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, I didn't connect those dots because I was dumb.
Well,
I wouldn't call
we're
it
always-
not that.
Actually,
because
you're not
there's
dumb.
just the opposite of that too, because people have come through here and they're like, oh yeah, I'm trying to get out. I want to network. I want to meet people in the industry. And others have said, this is a good place to do it and whatnot. And I'll walk up to that person, tell me who you want to meet. Let me put you in touch with them, or come back. We'll sit down. We'll talk about it. And they never take advantage of it. And then you see them a year later and they're like, how you doing? Well, it's a struggle. And it's like,
Well,
you
listen to
never
what I
took
said?
me up on my
Yeah.
offer.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I may or may not have been able to help you.
Well, there's two reasons why they don't. Okay. The first reason is because I'm a firm believer that people don't ask for what they want because they're afraid they're going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And the second reason is I'm a firm believer that people don't ask for what they want because they're afraid they're not going to get it. Right.
Well, if you ask me, who am I looking for? Who
Yeah.
do you want to connect with? I'd be like, somebody with deep pockets and a high aversion to risk. That's what I want.
You're looking for an investor.
I want
He's
bingo.
looking for a sugar mama.
There you go.
Bingo.
Yeah.
No, I mean, going back to my
Yeah.
point, I was being facetious about, saying that we're stupid, but there's been so many times where like I've met somebody and I'm trying to connect them with people. And then later on, they're like, hey, do you know anybody that's in the roofing industry? And I'm like, oh, yeah, shit. Why didn't I think of that?
Right.
Like, duh, that's perfect for you. And, I just didn't connect the dots because I wasn't thinking, because we're all busy. We got stuff going on. So I think it's a really good point, is to be, really focused on who it is. Like, don't just say, let me introduce you to everybody. Like, have a plan. Hey, here's the industries that would help me.
But
Right.
probably
Yeah.
in your situation, a lot of times what helps folks is there are the obvious relationships, as you said, the
Mhm.
plumber, the contractor, those direct lines. But I would think you guys, if you're really good at what you're doing, it's those one-offs where you go, have you ever thought about meeting this? And you introduce them to somebody who's just kind of off on the side. But man, that's the best thing that's really built that connection for them and helped their business more than they would ever know.
Well, yeah. I mean, Jake, what the real problem is that most people are thinking about themselves, and most people are thinking about the direct sale. So they don't think about how many sales, I meet you, but they don't think about how many sales, if you introduce me to Darren might be able to bring me. Right.
Right.
And they just think about what they think is, okay, you meet me, I'm in dry cleaning. So now you're going, okay, who do I know that needs dry cleaning? Well, maybe what I need to know is a property manager that a community manager, for CMA
Sure.
that, manages a large development and they have access to the network of
Yeah.
Facebook,
Well, and if
Yeah.
you're ever out at events too, you just got so much going through your head.
Sure.
So if you put the responsibility on yourself to just like, hey, here are the type of people I'd love to meet, it just helps whoever you come in contact with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, if I was out at a networking meeting and I met a liquor store owner and they're like, hey, I'm looking for, heavy drinkers. And I don't know. But it's like,
That's why you're bowing at his knee. His feet already.
but no, if he like came up to me and he's like, hey, I just, I own this liquor store and I'm looking to meet people. It's like, I would never think to connect them with Darren. But if you said, I'm looking for heavy drinkers, it's like, Darren, I need to introduce you to Darren Flanagan.
We can all dream. We can all dream. That's true.
I know. I was actually thinking when you said that, I'm like, well, there's one person in our group who does payment processing systems. That's who I would introduce him to, just like you right now. I'm just like, I know a guy.
But if you want to transform his business,
Right.
you introduce him to Darren.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
revenues be off the charts.
Well, they need to release an IPO.
Do you have any larger shopping carts?
Yeah. First, you need to go public and release an IPO, and then I'll introduce you to Darren.
Yes, exactly.
And everybody will be happy.
Absolutely.
Never saw a stock climb so fast.
Yeah.
So before we get ourselves in trouble for insider trading, so going back to your dry cleaning business, so your dry cleaning business is called Dry Cleaning Connection, right? drycleaningconnection.com. This COVID thing's hurt you guys.
Oh, sure.
How badly?
At the worst, we were down about 65%. We're now down, if the numbers hold true, we're down about 40%. The nice thing about an employer business, because we meet so many entrepreneurs who never get past the stage of doing the work themselves, right?
Right.
Mhm.
The nice thing about being an employer business, the bad thing for employees, is that you have some overhead you can start to peel off. I'm fortunate that I have 3 adults in my family, my wife and my 2 sons, who are physically able to work if we really got very, very low. And I won't lie. I mean, it's very fortunate that we've had the benefits that the government has provided. I'm not a big fan of it, but if they're going to do it, I want my employees to take advantage of it. I want my employees, the people that I know and like, to get the benefit.
Mhm.
And so it hasn't hurt so bad when I've had to say, because originally we kept everybody on. We kept everybody on because the word was this PP thing's going to come, and when it comes, you're going to need to have had everybody still on the payroll. Well, that went on for 4 or 5 weeks, before you finally found out, hey, guess what? You don't have to have them on the payroll. And by then you've been bled dry.
Right.
And so you apply for PPP, and it takes a while to get it. We finally got it. And we've worked through that pretty quickly. And so now, I think everyone kind of hoped that things would turn around faster.
Right.
It's pretty clear it's not going to. It's pretty clear that probably 20% of the population's never going back to work as the way we knew it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's at least a 20% dropout there. So,
Well, I'm assuming a lot of your business does revolve around work clothes, right? I mean, I know you have the big businesses, as you said, the airline industry, the hospitals and such, but the large accounts make up for what percentage?
Gosh, but
of
even
your
think
business?
about the personal side of this, man. Like
I know.
getting your nice clothes so you can go out on date night. Well, who's going on dates?
yeah.
You know,
So,
I mean, everything's
You are
suffering.
dry clean clothes on your date night
oh, yeah, sure.
You don't?
way back when.
Wow. Well, one of us is trying.
Yeah.
Love me for who I am, not what I'm trying to pretend to be.
I'm not going to say anything.
but
I don't even own any dry cleaning
Right.
clothes. So.
Oh, yeah, you
have-
do. You just don't know. You'd be surprised how many people send in T-shirts. I'm not kidding. I'm
Oh,
not
wow.
kidding.
No, but I
T-shirts,
mean,
Get a nice
If-
crease in your jeans.
and you don't have to share this if you don't want to.
no, I'm happy to.
I'm assuming the majority of your business is coming from corporate accounts.
So the majority of our business does come from homes, from people
From
going to
homes.
their home and picking it up from their home. I would say that we probably have 20% of our businesses in Serenbe.
Wow.
Do you want to get into Summer Grove?
We're in Summer Grove.
Okay.
I would love to get more penetration in Summer Grove because we don't have as much business in Summer Grove as I think we should have, and we especially don't have the business where I think it belongs, and that's along Lakeshore.
Mhm.
I mean, that area of Summer Grove's
more
development.
affluent community.
Yeah, we don't
I'm
do.
thinking of Blake right now. Anyway, that's like, boom, he needs to talk to
anybody
Blake.
that has connection down there,
Right.
we do have a couple of clients that I haven't leveraged the way I should. I've got a realtor down there that is a client of mine that I know he does quite a bit in Summer
That's
Grove.
interesting.
But we're typically in the higher end neighborhoods. So
Yeah, I thought your business model was the inverse of that. I thought it would be more corporate accounts would be the majority, and then the homes would be lesser.
Yeah.
And I will say,
I can't believe Darren was wrong.
more than once.
I can.
At least once a day, if not more.
No, we're about 20% corporate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because my other sister who wasn't on the show, she uses a service like yours up in
Right.
North Carolina, and she loves it. She's like, man, I put the bag on the doorstep. They come, they pick up my stuff, and they bring it back, and they put it on the door, and I'm done. I don't have to worry about it.
Right.
But with people living at home, working from home now, that's had a huge.
Sure, it's
how
had
much of an impact has that really hit you?
Well, I mean, that's been, about 80% of our business is at homes.
Right.
So if we're down 40%, it's at least, 80% of the 40.
Wow.
And the problem is that we keep having these, restarts and not starts and things like that. And I think that, we as a company, we as kind of a small business community have been kind of watching and waiting for school to start. Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, we can make it to school starting. Right. Summer stinks anyway. We can make it to school starting, especially in Atlanta. Summer really stinks. I mean, business wise, if nobody remembers, but everybody went to the lake on Friday. Now they're just going the whole week. But, if we can make it to school starting, then everything will kind of go back to normal. And I guess we've all heard that, school's not going to start as normal.
Yeah.
If nothing else. I mean, it's going to be a combo in Coweta. I think it's going to be a combo here in Fayette.
Now, you guys
And did you hear what just got announced? I think it was yesterday or the day before, Fulton County.
Yeah, they're going online 100%.
100% for the full year.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's Fulton County.
I know
That's
DeKalb
Atlanta, folks.
postponed theirs.
That's the city of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Is going 100% online for school next year.
Actually, I think Atlanta has their own public schools. So Fulton County has their schools, and then Atlanta public schools too.
I believe Cobb County did the same thing. Did
they?
Right?
But I don't know what APS is doing.
Probably the same.
Probably the same.
Postpone theirs too. They're like, well, we're just going to wait it out, and we're going to start later this year.
Yeah,
instead.
That's just crazy.
I'm waiting for parents to just start suing because
Right.
you
can't afford it.
But think about how upside down our economy is. That it all depends on whether we send kids to school or not.
For your business.
Anybody's
a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
Because
They're all there over there.
we're basically a 2-income earner society now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, they've convinced us that that's the way it has to be for us to keep up with the Joneses and pay the taxes that the government needs to redistribute the wealth.
Well, I've seen it. I've seen it happen here. I mean, I see people going out the door, and it's like, just found out my kid's going to be potentially home this fall for school, so
right.
I don't get to come to your office anymore.
We homeschooled our kids, so I mean, this isn't foreign.
Right.
Obviously, we're not doing it anymore. I mean, they graduated when they were 23, but no, just kidding.
So, two
a lot
questions
of people
for
go to
you.
college for 7 years.
Now, you guys have your own plant.
Right.
So are you bringing in business from other places? Like I know places say they actually do dry cleaning, and they're like, yeah, you bring it in, goes in the van out the back door, goes to your plant.
Sure, not ours, but some.
Or a plant.
Right.
We don't
do any wholesale work. No.
Okay. And then you said you're a serial entrepreneur. So we got selling candy under the stairs.
Yeah.
Then you went into the golf business, but that wasn't.
Well, actually,
really
I mean, at one point you own your own shop.
Okay.
Okay.
So you had your own golf
or
shop.
you have a teaching business. So I spent time traveling.
Okay.
In the summertime, I'd be in New York, and then in the wintertime, I'd be in Florida teaching golf.
And then somewhere in between there, you wound up down in Punta Gorda.
Mm-hmm.
And then you wound up in the dry cleaning business.
Right.
So are there any other business ventures in here that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So
what do you mean? Oh, sure.
Oh, there's been a bunch. I mean, I
look
failed
under the table.
I failed more than I've succeeded.
Well,
obviously,
that's what makes you successful.
Right. But I was my brother and I owned a janitorial supply company that I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
It started out as just a floor buffing pad company. And the way we got in that business was he had a member at his country club who manufactured floor buffing pads, and he had a warehouse full of defective pads that he couldn't sell, right? So he gave them to us to sell, and so we sold defective pads. We call people up and throughout the country and say, hey, we got these pads. The moment a floor pad hits the floor anyway, it's defective. So
right.
And the ones that couldn't be used, we bought a press and we would cut down to smaller sizes.
These are the guys who invented the ShamWow?
Yeah, exactly. I wish we were. That guy's something else. But I think that's Ron Popeil. But he invented everything, right? Yep. So we did that, and the shortcoming was we'd come out of the golf business where everybody paid their bill on time because they signed a ticket, and then the country club paid you, right? So you didn't realize people don't pay their bills. And we were shipping stuff all throughout the country. We had a client in Dubai that we would ship containers of floor buffing pads to. And we discovered, now that one never went south on us and didn't pay us, but we discovered that, people won't pay their bill. We'd ship it out to them. Yeah, just pay us whenever you want. And we learned the hard way. So we ended up absorbing some floor cleaning companies. So now we're in the floor cleaning business. And then we bought a lawn doctor franchise. And then we bought a landscaping company called Land Management of Georgia. Got out of all of those. We bought 2 laundromats. We did the coin laundry thing for a while, discovered there's not enough quarters on the planet to feed 2 families. We bought a dry cleaning to your door franchise. We started a facility services company where we did floor maintenance, landscaping, bathroom cleaning, restaurant cleaning for Kmart.
Way to bring in all of your previous experiences.
So we had 162 Kmarts throughout the Southeast. We had every Kmart from Louisiana down to Florida.
You realize that they've closed their doors by now, right?
we found out that the hard way. Because
it's funny how those things are.
Just a little tip for anybody out there who has never gone through an experience like that: when they pay you money and then they file bankruptcy, the bankruptcy court takes the money out of your bank account. Just so you know, because it's not yours, it's theirs.
Wow.
And we woke up one morning $62,000 poorer than we were the day before. And of course, the paychecks hadn't hit yet. It was an interesting time.
Oh, boy.
So
I have heard so many stories like that. It's just awful.
Out of all this experience you've had, if we came to you as a new entrepreneur and said, Glenn, I'm going to start this business. And I said, give me one piece of advice. Give me the best nugget. It's like taking up golf, okay? Hey, I'm thinking of taking up golf. Don't. Just
I'm going to buy a boat.
Yeah, that's definitely
another don't.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's the best piece of advice you can give somebody?
Well, obviously it would depend upon what the business is. But if you want to do a general piece of advice, it would be understand your target customer 100%. If you don't understand who you're trying to go after, you'll never be able to communicate that to somebody else who can lead you to them. And they'll never understand that you're for them.
And that goes back to that minimum viable product.
Sure does.
Know your proposition. Okay, I want to go back to something because you talked about it and then Darren took us down a rabbit hole. 2 families,
No,
Darren.
Darren, he's been running the show for a little while. I'm kind of surprised.
It's Darren. It's like we start here and then we go off left, go right. And
it's just when he gets going, you just kind of let him go. Look at Darren go.
He'll wind himself down eventually.
He's talking, isn't that cool? So,
and on that
sorry,
note,
Glenn. I mean, we do this every show. The poor guy. We annihilate him. And now he's going to go pee.
That's right. He's just going to leave.
We've shamed him out of the studio.
There you have it.
So you talked about he's out there flipping us off, folks.
Okay.
That hurts my feeling.
Anyway.
You talked about the 2 families or the 2 parents working. And this is actually a really big deal, especially with businesses through COVID. And we've experienced this. So, we're sitting there and our business was just, we were rocking.
Sure.
So early March, like we were doing better than we'd ever done. We're on track to have the best financial year we've ever had. We're like, this is great. And then all of a sudden it's like, everything's closed down. So the business just grinds to a halt. And then the school says, we're done for the rest of the year.
Right.
The daycare says, you know what? We're done. And all of a sudden we're stuck with 3 kids at home. And it's like, well, what do? We don't have family around here. And it was a really big deal. And this is one of the issues that I don't think we're talking about enough with this situation and COVID. And now that there's talk, we'll just have the kids go back to school online. Oh my God, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, how the hell do we manage that?
So now, you have one of your children's a 4-year-old, right?
Yeah. And I understand you've seen him naked.
No, not necessarily. Maybe,
there's actually a funny story.
Maybe not naked, but
underwear.
But one of us did walk in in the bathroom on him. But he didn't lock the door, man. Story. He didn't lock the door. But so when Kelly showed us a home, she had no choice, right?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
She said to me, she goes, well, gosh, I've got. I said, bring him along. I don't care, right? Bring him along. It doesn't matter to me. But I think that there could be something good from this if, in fact, we embrace the idea that our children might have to tag along,
right,
and might actually get exposed to business earlier. and might actually get exposed to how mom and dad actually put food on the table and a roof over my head, and that they aren't just out, playing video games, that they actually are working. And maybe, because I know for me, my dad died when I was 9. And so I went to work when I was 10.
Yeah.
I didn't have a choice. We didn't. My dad was a life insurance salesman who died without insurance. In previous life, he had been a life insurance salesman. But so, I think there could be some good, but I also think that, unfortunately, I'm worried about the companies that say, you know what, we're not going to go back to the office, and then eventually go, you know what, we don't need 30% of our workforce.
Right.
Yeah.
So first of all, I really like that point. And I do agree with you, because we've exposed our kids to what we're doing in our business, which is a little bit easier when you have a business and not a job.
Right.
And I think that's great. And I think that any chance you have to do that, you should take it. But it's a really good point about big companies, because I spent a very big part of my career in management at a big company, and I know how they think. And you're right. It's like a gateway drug. Once you start having a bunch of people work from home, it's like, well, gosh, how much value is Mary really bringing to the company?
Or we have all these giant facilities just to keep them, their desks and everything like that. Well, we don't need all this overhead, right?
That's right.
That's a massive capital expenditure, right?
But here's the other problem too. Have you noticed? Has anybody called like customer service from a big company recently?
Oh, yeah.
So have I.
Long excuse about COVID.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I just had an experience. I'm not going to name the company, but I had to call in about.
That's because they're still getting their government checks.
Dude, I'm telling you what, it was so awful. Took forever. First of all, it took me like 7 phone calls before I finally got a hold time that was like, all right, I'll sit through this. Because there was one time it's like, your whole estimated hold time is 15 minutes. It's like, all right, I'll wait. 15 minutes later, you estimate a hold time is 45 minutes. Oh, screw it. Try again. And I went through this a bunch of times. Well, finally I got to a day where I got through, and then I talked to somebody, and I mean, it was an awful experience from a company I talked to before and didn't really mess it up. And they're, oh, well, you have to, excuse us. We're all, working from home with COVID. Well, I don't care. You screwed something up. So fix it. Went through multiple people, and essentially the company that I called to have something canceled, they signed me up for something even more expensive. And I just found out, and I'm about to lose my freaking mind. I got a box at home. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to kill somebody.
This must be for your cable or internet service.
Right. But but here's the problem. If they're all doing it, what's your alternative? Because in a normal business environment, right? Like somebody drops a ball in customer service. Well, somebody else over here is doing it really good. So I'm going to take my business there.
Right.
Well, they all suck right now. Well, so it's an excuse for them to suck more.
When it comes to something like, and let's just say it was a technology company.
I'm sure it was.
Okay. When it comes to that, I don't know that this applies, but I do think that there's a huge opportunity for smart entrepreneurs who want to take advantage of poor service and launch something that is local, that actually has a human being. I mean, there's a company in Atlanta, and I'm going to say their name only because it won't, I don't think it really matters. But their
We've got good attorneys.
Their big ad campaign is, it's Vision Computers. Their big ad campaign is somebody will answer the phone in 15 seconds or less, and it'll be a human being. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, in that industry, there's a problem that they've addressed that they're now tackling, right?
Sure.
And now, do I think a Vision computer is going to be as cheap as a Chromebook? Probably not, right? But by the same token, if I'm looking for that level of service, so I think there's lots of opportunities for smart business people who have a little bit of drive and a little bit of money in the pocket to try to weather it, to go out there and attack some of these larger companies that are literally, I mean, we're going to have no options pretty soon. We're gonna have no options, and that's a great time for an option.
Well, let me try to illustrate my point in telling you about this, because I think what's going to happen if what your fear is that we're going to start to say, oh, geez, there's people that really don't need to be here. If that comes true, here's what I think is going to happen. Prior to COVID, pick a big company. They were working for 5 out of 5 stars, because that's how you compete.
Right.
Like, you got to be good. You got to be 5 out of 5. Well, if all this stuff happens and the world changes, and everybody else is 4 out of 4 stars, then that's all I got to get to be in the hunt. So we're no longer striving for 5 out of 5, now 4 out of 5, because nobody's doing any better than that. But if I can get in that ballpark, I can still make good. I can make more money because now I'm changing my
podcast. Our podcast is always 5 out of 5.
Always. We will never go to 4 out of 5. And if we do, we'll hunt you down, whoever it is that gives us a low score.
There you go.
We shadow ban anybody that gives us less than 5 stars.
We just send Mr. Winnie to your house. Hey, I heard you gave us a 2-star.
Yeah.
Come outside. But seriously, I think that's what's going to happen. If this does, in fact, take place and companies start to, especially big companies, and, it's like you think about, wireless. I'll just pick on wireless as an example. Who are you going to go to?
Right.
There is no small entrepreneur that can come in and say, hey, I got you. If they're like, hey, good enough is good enough. Screw it. We're not trying to be the best anymore because nobody can be the best.
I think that kind of started when they started, that when wireless
that was a poor example, wasn't it?
No, it's actually a pretty good one.
But if you call Overwatch Technology, somebody will answer the phone.
There you go.
So
when wireless first started, I was an early adopter, and they were, phones were expensive, right? And then somebody got smart and they gave them away for free. And then somebody got smart and said, we don't have to give them away for free anymore. We'll just finance them into oblivion, and you'll have to stay with us because you owe us money.
That was Jake's plan.
So, and once they did that, there's no requirement anymore for them to be great, right?
Sure.
They just need to be good enough.
Right.
Yeah. And that's kind of where we're headed with a lot of these big vendors is good enough.
Yeah. Or if, in wireless, you started it good enough, maybe just a little bit better than sucks is what you're aiming for.
I hope SpaceX doesn't go with that route. It's good enough. We got it close to where you wanted it, but
it almost made it into orbit.
Okay, so we landed a rocket on your house. No big deal.
It's okay.
They're still
that's
100%.
what insurance is for.
Right.
We'll give you a Tesla just to make up for it.
Yeah.
We've got lots of them.
Yeah, I worry about that. I mean, because I do think that you're right. I think that there's opportunists out there. And I've already seen some companies use COVID as an excuse to do things, and this is one where I really don't want to name any, but like you've seen a lot of companies that have announced store closures.
Right.
Well, many of those were situations where there was large contracts or labor contracts if they're unionized or, there's all kinds of different, and I don't want to get into any specifics with anybody I'm talking about, but you've heard about store closures.
Sure.
There's a lot of companies that use COVID as the excuse to push through what they've been trying to do for a long time. And it may not be good for their workforce. It may not be good for their customers, because if you think, we'll go back to wireless. I'm not picking on the wireless industry. We were talking about it. But their stores serve as customer service hubs too.
Right.
I broke my phone. I got to go in somewhere and have it
You can't go in them now.
Well, now, if I live in a rural area and they close that store, where do I go?
Right.
Well, it's fine. We've got a store that's 4 hours from you. Just go there. Oh, so now I got to drive 4 hours.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff that happens. And there's some opportunism that's already happening. And I think it's going to get worse, especially with some large companies. And I don't know. I've been worried about that for a while now. And I think, now that we're going back to phase 1 in California.
Right.
Shit.
Right. And we've experienced a little bit of that where I work, where, we have huge call centers, and we have call centers that are just for employees, employees that need to travel around. And they've actually started combining some of those call centers to give them multiple jobs, instead of just focusing on one area. Now they have to do 2 or 3. And it's going to take a while to play out, but it's not good. It's
no,
they need new manuals to read the answers from. That's it. That's what they have to learn. Right?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, if somebody
didn't get my point.
if I'm an employee only call center where I deal with employees and now I have to handle customer service stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Well, based on the questions, I have to flip through a new manual to give you the answer.
Yeah. It's a mess. And it really slows things down.
Oh.
It's very unfortunate.
That's not good.
But our big passion here on this podcast, obviously, is small business entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I worry about the most with small business is all the mandates. So it's shocking to me how easy governments can just throw around mandates, like California, back to phase 1. It's like, well, wait a minute. Whoa, that means that I'm non-essential now, whatever, I own a skate shop. I don't know why I thought of skateboards, but it's California. So I own a skate shop. Now I got to close again. Well, what? Oh, well, you got your PPP. Well, shit, my business is half of what it was, and that's gone. I burned through it. So now what? Well, you'll be fine. I hate that attitude from governments that are just like, oh, just do it. It's for the greater good. You're saving lives. Just do it.
Now, this is my own personal opinion, but it's completely unconstitutional.
Oh,
First,
yes.
doesn't the First Amendment give you the right to peaceably assemble?
Yes.
Well, actually, you're right that it's unconstitutional, but there's some question as to if they can prevent you from peaceably assembling if, in fact, it is a health problem for the community that you're peaceably assembling in. But you're right. But the unconstitutionality of it, here's the real problem. And this is the thing that I continue to not understand. Laws originate in the House and the Senate. Okay, that's where they start, whether it's in a state. So when a governor just arbitrarily makes a law, okay, is it really enforceable? Now, what happened in Georgia was when they went out of session, they had an emergency mandate that gave Governor Kemp the ability to make laws for the health of the and to go into the state of emergency that we're in now for 135 days, something like that.
Yep.
Right.
But they didn't give that to the municipalities.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's the real rub here that's going on with the governor and with, and obviously with the city of Atlanta right now.
Sure, yeah. Because they want to impose, masks in all public places, and the governor said no.
Yeah, but the real issue is he's actually, because I listened to it this morning, while the mask thing is the thing that's getting the traction in the media, the truth is he is suing the city of Atlanta and the Atlanta City Council on behalf of the business community.
Sure.
So
well, yeah. So let's kind of rewind so our listeners can follow along in case you're not aware. So what happened was, the city of Atlanta, I think it was earlier this week, made an announcement that there was a mandate that you had to have a mask in public, period, full stop, end of story.
Mm-hmm.
And so Governor Kemp, I think it was yesterday or the day before, filed a lawsuit against the city of Atlanta stating that they can't do that.
Exactly.
And so let's give you an example. So you're out in public, you're a construction worker,
Yep.
and you're working out in this 5 million degree heat. It's so freaking hot right now. And you have to wear a mask. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think I'd make it. I'd probably drop dead.
Yep.
But you have to do that now based on the city of Atlanta's ordinances.
So if you think about that, if you're not feeling good because you've been out in the heat working and you go to the hospital to get that taken care of, now you're a COVID case.
Well,
I think you have
there you go.
COVID-19,
You just helped
Jake.
it. There you go.
Oh,
You had some trouble coming up the stairs here. a month
Probable.
ago.
I probably have
Oh,
COVID.
you have
COVID
yeah.
case.
Hard time breathing? Your lungs
Oh,
are bothering
yeah.
you?
That's
Potential
COVID case.
Probable COVID.
Gosh, that would make me hard to breathe right now. I'm just worried.
I sneezed earlier today, so it's another COVID case, and I had COVID yesterday, so now
100%.
I've got 2 COVID cases this week. So
Yeah, mark them down.
but it's interesting. So I wanted to explain that to people. But this is a really interesting moment in history. Not just for the state of Georgia, but I think across the country, because now you're in a situation where there's going to be a lawsuit. The state of Georgia, does the state of Georgia supersede the city?
Yeah, well, and so
I'm
that's
not sure.
that's the question. But the fact is that when the governor put us into restart mode, part of the deal is that no municipality or can have anything less or more than the state has mandated.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what the real issue will be in the lawsuit. But imagine if you're a small business like a restaurant, and this is a great example. So you're a restaurant in Atlanta, and 4 days ago, you planned a big weekend that you're going to have wings and barbecue, whatever the case may be, and you've ordered all this meat to come in, And now this law comes around that you have to wear masks, and that's going to drive people away.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but the city of Atlanta has gone back to phase 1. So restaurants are not allowed to have patrons inside. And now all that product that you've ordered is immediately going to go bad, and it's on you. And there is no benefit to take care of that for the business owner. The city just makes the mandate, and you have to follow. That's
why
wrong.
I don't think they have the authority.
I agree with you.
By the time they figure out if they have the authority or not, that stuff's already gone sour.
I know.
I mean, we've picked on Governor Kemp about what he's done, but I will say he's actually looking out for businesses and small businesses, medium-sized businesses, because he knows that is what attracts people to Georgia, which brings on larger business.
Well,
and he's actually done a pretty damn good thing. And I mean, we get a lot of attention in the media.
We do.
In Georgia, it's like, oh my gosh, look at you guys.
Look at those rednecks.
Yeah.
Opening
What
up.
are they doing?
Idiots.
Oh, we're trying to live our lives like we should.
Well,
So-
but here's the thing that, going back to the core question about the constitutionality of this, the
Mhm.
thing that really rubs me the wrong way is the Constitution exists to limit the power of government, not to extend it.
So you would
Sure.
think.
Right. But this is the problem.
Supposed to.
Right. And this is the problem. Where does the government get away with thinking that they've got the enormous amount of power that they've wielded under this? Because, okay, take a health pandemic as one thing. The state of California, when they went through their reopening, I don't know if you guys saw how freaking crazy it was when they went to like phase 2 and phase 3, the things that they said you couldn't do. It's like you can play badminton outside, but you can't play volleyball.
Because
I
you're
mean, it
touching the
literally got-
ball. Come on. Badminton, you're not touching what is it called?
The
Shuttlecock.
Shuttlecock.
Yeah, you are.
Yes, you are.
Well, not really. You can actually scoop it
Sounds
as
like-
long as you scoop it up.
But then you get sand in your face.
Do you remember that one video with that one mayor who was talking about the new rules for tennis? And it is absolutely hysterical, and it's so true. And she's laughing. She's like, okay, so you're going to mark your balls
Yeah, I remember that.
with an X, but your opponent's balls aren't. And when you pick up your ball,
Just
and
make
she's-
sure you don't pick up your opponent's balls.
Don't
Oh my
touch
God.
your opponent's balls.
That's right.
Please,
That's what
whatever
she
you
said.
do.
Don't
It is
touch it.
absolutely hysterical.
Oh my
She-
God.
It's like, why do I have to give this public service?
Oh my
announcement?
gosh.
But this is the point that I'm making. So it's like, okay, if you can do something for the greater good of the public, okay, but where do you draw the line? Like, when does it go from greater good to lunacy? Because that's what we've got. I mean,
We're there.
Well,
I
we've got
know.
lunacy on both sides, though.
Oh, I totally
I mean-
agree. And my whole point in that is like the CARES Act.
Yeah.
It's a steaming pile of garbage. What is it? 100%, 99%?
Yeah.
Because we had one holdout, right? But it was
right. Yes.
Yeah.
There was one holdout.
Yeah.
But it was essentially every senator voted for it. So it's, oh, look,
It's not their money.
we've got something bipartisan. I
Right.
mean, everybody's in on it. It's
Right.
total crap. And, the same thing with news media. So this is not a left versus right news media thing as you'd want to, as people try to make it sound like, because Fox News was just as complicit as everybody else with all the fear mongering and the 24/7.
Well, I'll tell you exactly that point when I knew that it was over. Okay, and we no longer have.
oh
and then-
shit, we've got
yeah. We got COVID.
well, here
over
we've got COVID in the studio.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
He was
here's
drinking his beer so fast he inhaled it, I think.
Oh my
So
God. I forgot to flip over my epiglottis.
COVID.
so I'm trying to escape the I think he's calling it pandemic porn.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to escape the pandemic porn, and I go to the sports radio station. Right now, we're talking about
Not gonna
guys
happen.
that talk about basically girls, beer, and sports. Right?
Right.
That's all they talk about.
Yep.
And I'm listening to these guys drone on about how we have to social distance and we got to wear our masks and I'm thinking to myself, who told you to say this?
That's because they don't have any sports to talk about.
And no,
so they
but
can talk
still,
about something.
they could talk about chicks because that's what they do all the time anyway.
Well,
They could talk about anything
I
other
just-
than
It's
And
like a thing out of Spaceballs.
Right.
We've just gone to plaid.
So exactly.
It's close. Yeah.
And here's the other thing. Okay, why is it that all the big box retailers have decided July 20th is the day?
You know what? This I'm so glad you brought that up because I knew we were going to talk about it today.
What now?
So first of all, I think it was Walmart came out first.
Publix is boycotting. They're going for July 21st.
Oh, those rebels without a cause.
Yeah, Sam's Club, Walmart.
So they came out, they announced this week that starting July 20th, they're going to mandate masks in all their stores. And I'm like, you got to be shitting me.
Starbucks
and I swear to
did
God, start the drumbeat within 24 hours. Kroger, I mean, name the retailer. They're all on board. Like, oh yeah, we're all doing masks. Ironically on the 20th. Because the stupid thing is the mob, social media will absolutely clobber anybody that's not on board. And it's so stupid.
I'm not doing it here, okay?
I'm not doing it.
You may have to.
No.
You may, I mean, they may mandate it.
No.
Just
private
wait.
thing. It's a private business.
Yeah.
You could kiss my ass.
You know what? Okay.
It's big and white and round.
You know what? Actually,
and you can kiss
the thing I'm not really-
we will wear masks in here if it's mandated.
Right. But here's the thing that I'm not really
going to have a giant big one of these.
Exactly.
Right there.
The thing you really worry about is what Jake was talking about, and that is that the mob shames you into it. It's kind of like you're forced into
cancel culture.
Exactly.
But doesn't small business have the advantage in that situation where you're not a big corporate entity? You don't have to kowtow to your.
Yeah, but think about how fast. If you go back to the cancel culture thing, your business could be decimated if people find out that you're not doing it. And all of a sudden, it's like you're shamed into it completely.
Let's rewind here for a second. All right. So we're all level-headed adults, right?
Supposedly.
I don't know. I'm getting less level-headed about a minute.
Well, thanks to Line Creek.
Well, that's because you're spending time with us.
That's
right. And so you see something like this announced that, masks are now mandatory in the store, and it pisses you off.
Yeah.
Okay. So, when Walmart came out with this, it's like, screw that. I'm shopping at Target or whatever. Well, now all of a sudden everybody's on board. Where do you take your business? I'm asking that question. Where
Amazon.
Do you take? Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Who wins? Fucking Amazon, who's already winning.
Jeff Bezos isn't telling me to wear a mask.
Yeah, but he doesn't care. And why do I need it anyway?
Great freaking job, you idiots.
Right.
You idiots.
I go there anyway. Why not?
I mean, what the hell?
I get exactly what I want, and it's delivered on my doorstep in 2 days.
Oh,
or
so what about
I'll just do the drive-up delivery thing.
We got a farmer's market here in Peachtree City.
Yeah,
they're not going to do it. That's an outdoor market.
You go there.
The problem is scale.
You go over to Cleveland Cork, and you get your meats.
Well,
hell yeah!
Support local all the time.
Right. So I mean, there are options.
Farmers market.
But the problem is scale.
Right.
They'll never address the scale that's necessary. And what happens is in this situation, Amazon's going to win because there are tens, if not hundreds of millions of people that are going to be like, F this is stupid. And they're not going to go to the store.
Well, Amazon has that grocery.
And Prime Now.
Yeah, so I'll tell you.
So
it's going to grow.
Support local for your business and what you can't get locally at the farmers market and stuff.
Well, Amazon's going to win, and Walmart's going. The same thing. They got a 2-hour program now too.
Yeah, they're going on.
You know what Amazon's going to have to do so they stay mask compliant? Before you click place my order now, you're going to have to send in a screenshot
of you with the mask on
before you click the mouse.
Well, going back to my chamber life, every chamber in the world has this, dream, if they haven't already, creating a buy local campaign, right?
Sure.
And every one of them I've ever been involved in, everybody's, oh yeah, let's have a buy local campaign. Yeah. And everybody gets all excited about it, right?
And then
nothing ever happens.
Right.
And everybody goes back to their house and orders on Amazon. And I think what has to happen is that if you want to have a robust buy local campaign,
this is it, man.
You've got to have robust buy local vendors. You've got to have the small businesses that show the value proposition that go in there.
Well, if you could expand a co-op.
But hold on, going back to his point, this is the moment.
You're right.
This is the moment. If you're that person where you're like, you want to buy local, this stuff is pissing you off. This is your moment to say, fuck it, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go out of my way to support local because I don't want to keep feeding the beast. I mean, this is ridiculous. And the only way that the small business options can scale is if we support them. That's it. And it's not going to happen overnight. But I'm so sick over the mask mandate thing, because one of the things that we've advocated for on this podcast from the beginning is common sense,
Personal responsibility.
That's it. And you know what? If masks work, then you go wear them in public if that's what makes you comfortable, and you'll be fine. If they don't work, it doesn't matter if I wear it or not.
Just don't wear it when you're driving to the
So
store.
if you feel more comfortable in public with a mask, wear one. If you don't wear one. It's your choice. It should be
but the way they're positioning this is that it's not your choice.
That's
because
such
you
bullshit.
are breathing on me.
That's
Doesn't
such
matter.
It's
bullshit.
just like it's a secondhand smoke thing. I mean, I'm not a
breathing
smoker.
on you. Yeah, but if you choose to wear a mask, then I'm not breathing on you.
Yeah, but
how about that? Too bad.
that's right. That's what you would think, right? But you mentioned people driving their masks on. It really gets me and I see it every morning on the way to work. Every morning, people driving with their mask on, texting.
But
So I have a question for you.
It's like,
Do you
dude,
have, it's double. Yeah, double it
that
down
would
on
be a
that
great.
one.
I'm waiting for somebody to make this point where that you are far more likely to die in a car accident than from COVID-19. I don't know.
but let's go back to
Do you have your drivers wearing masks? Do they have to?
we have provided masks. We encourage them to wear them.
Not while
We have-
driving, just when they get out and
we
walk
have
up to
we
the
have
door.
clients who have asked that we wear a mask when we go to. But remember, about 90% of the time, we never see the client.
I know you're just
Right.
delivering to the door.
Right. So we're walking up to people's doors. You'd be amazed how few people are out in the middle of the day. It really is surprising. I mean, a lot more now than there used to
yeah,
be.
even though they're
But-
not going to work.
Right. So, like for our medical facilities, of course, they have to wear a mask going in
Mhm.
there.
I get that.
Yeah.
Yep.
but here's what I struggle with. I know.
We gotta friggin' come down off of this. We can't.
No, but here's what I struggle with, especially with the whole mask thing, is okay, so you don't want to breathe on people, right? And that's the old argument for everybody wearing a mask. It's all predicated on what we think we know about COVID-19, and we keep seeing example after example after example of the bullshit. Harken back to Dr. Fauci's call in today.
Anyway,
But hold on. I got a point to make on this.
Okay.
How many of you guys heard about the lab in Orlando that had 100% COVID?
It's not just a lab. It's like 70 testing sites,
So you've heard about this.
all 100%.
Yes. So this happened in Florida. Okay. There's a massive, I don't know how many, I don't even know that they've reported how many tests, but a massive amount of tests that happened in Florida. 100% of all tests that were sent into this lab came back COVID-19 positive.
I
How
can
much
tell
do you
why.
want to bet you get more money for a positive test than you do a negative test?
Ding, ding,
Oh,
ding, ding, ding.
whoa.
Oh,
Oh, well, that's
Hold
only
on,
half.
Hold on,
of
Darren.
it.
Hold on. So if you're listening right now, this has materially skewed the numbers in Florida, which is one of those states
that everybody's freaking out about.
Oh my
It's
God,
the
they're
epicenter
spiking.
right
They're
now.
spiking.
Yeah,
So
if you
you've
live
got
in
this-
Florida, you can't fly anywhere.
Okay, so let's
country.
set this up. When hospitals do your COVID test, when your doctor does your COVID test, they send them into these labs. And as you stated, there's 70 of them, 70
I just
locations.
picked a number, but the number, the
huge.
list I saw was it
It's
looked like
huge.
60 or
It's a large
70.
Okay.
number.
So it's a huge number. So all these health professionals are sending their tests in, waiting for the results to come back. And 100% of all the tests came back positive.
Yeah.
Now, how many of you heard about that on the news? Crickets. It was reported on Fox 5 Orlando is where I saw it. And it got buried. I've not seen it on any national media. That is a massive freaking story. It's massive.
You would think it would be, but
It should.
it should be, but
But it got
but it
squashed.
won't be, right? Because it doesn't fit the narrative. But if you want to have the one thing that I've come up with that nobody seems to have a good answer for, and it'll trouble you, it should trouble everybody. Here it is. Why aren't the homeless dying in droves?
Darren, get me some whiskey.
Oh, we
Do you
can't-
think?
Yeah, I
do you
know.
think if the homeless were dying in droves that we would know about it? Oh, they would love to
yes.
Oh,
report
yeah.
that, right?
But you know who's dying in droves based on COVID? Do you know
Old
who?
Old people,
People in nursing homes.
right?
Mhm.
Do you know who's dying in droves always?
People in nursing homes.
Oh,
Yeah, but I mean, look, until it's your
Right.
relative. I mean, and I'm not trying to make light of this. I'm not either.
We're not either.
But
We don't need
it is troubling when you think about it. Because I've asked this question to lots of people. Why aren't the homeless dying in droves? If this is so contagious
Right.
and
Right.
so dangerous and so deadly, they live in squalor. They have no sanitation. They do congregate.
They do maintain 6 foot
That's what-
social
yeah,
distancing is
right.
what it is.
They got the message.
Sure.
You could only have one homeless on each street corner with their signs.
Yeah, until they come back
So-
and bring the money
Yeah.
back to the
Right.
pimp who runs
to the group
corners.
Yeah.
that runs it all. But so the reason that's at 100%, I realize what
It's
it
a
is.
different theory.
What's that?
Yeah.
Everybody's been furloughed, and it's cheaper for them to be on unemployment. So they only have one person who's working in the
It's
lab.
just easier to say
and
100%.
it's just click.
We got
Boom, I'm
most of
done
them
for
that
the
way
day.
for sure.
We haven't actually tested any of them. We just send them back yes.
It's one of,
Yeah.
it's one of Cheech and Chong's relatives who's running the lab.
When you
It's
have
like,
stuff like
dude,
that, and when you have stuff
I'm
like
out.
people who are in line and then they decide to leave, and then they got a call saying that they were positive, and when you have people like me who go, "Why aren't the homeless dying in droves?" Is it any wonder that we have so much conspiracy theory on this problem?
Yeah.
Well, and I have a friend. So I was on social media the other day. I have a friend that posted something about this.
That's your first
And then-
problem.
Well, hold on. I'm going somewhere with this. And then there was a person, I'm not going to name names, works for a very, very large health company here locally.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that they ran an experiment and they opened up 3 test kits. And they just opened the test kit and put the swab back in, didn't touch anybody with it, sent them all out. All 3 came back positive.
Now that's troubling.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's not the
It
first time
just-
I've heard about shenanigans like that.
Wow.
Yeah, and the thing
know,
that worries me the most is, I mean, I've got some very, very close friends in the healthcare community, clients that are in the healthcare community, and I got to tell you, these people are not. They're not people who would lie to us.
Right.
Right. They wouldn't. Okay. So this is above them. This is beyond them.
Right.
And I don't want to say they're lying, but they sure are getting some stuff wrong.
Sure. I totally agree. So
But this really, the whole point of, and I know we've had a great conversation. We're really
Passionate.
bashing the shit out of stuff, and it is passionate. And the one thing we always want to make people aware of, as we've always said, is use your brain, think for yourself, go out and do that.
well,
but
here's
we're
the whole
also
point.
about business, and so
Right.
let's
That's the
get
point.
back to that.
That's the point.
Right,
Because we're doing all this stuff.
and it's killing
right?
small and medium-sized businesses. That's the
Yes.
problem.
But my point is, we're going. All this started with the whole mask conversation with
Mhm.
Walmart. I think that if you get to the real numbers of what's going on here, you'd realize that what we've got here is not what you saw with the movie Outbreak. You
No,
know,
it's
this is not it. And we should be in a place where people should do things that make them feel comfortable.
Well, yes, it's
Right?
complete opposite.
Whatever
You know,
that is.
People have a theory that we never landed on the moon and they could prove it. Well, this is an actual thing. We don't
Or
have
like
a real.
the flat earthers. I watched
Yeah.
that thing.
Did you watch that? Is
Yeah.
that freaking nuts or what?
Those people are crazy.
But this is one of those where it's like, oh, so you guys actually created a pandemic that really wasn't a pandemic, and you'll never know the answers. So, but
Well, there is a
and-
bad disease out
well,
there,
our
and people are getting sick. There's
Okay.
no question, and
There is.
they're dying.
But the passion of the whole reason we're all passionate about it is because we believe businesses need to succeed and thrive, and this is killing the small and medium sized businesses.
No
And
doubt.
Then the large ones they have enough funding, and they got funding first to get them through, to ride through whatever the hell this actually is.
Right.
Whether what you believe or somebody out there disagrees with us and believes something else. And it's killing the basis of our communities and what we all really, truly want to see succeed.
So 98% of all businesses qualify as small businesses in the United States.
Yep.
Now, I think that's an unfair number because it's 500 employees or less. I got news for you.
I know
500 employees isn't a small business.
that's a
but
medium to large size
still,
business.
the fact is that if you go into any community in the United States, any community, you do not have a quality of life without the small businesses that are running there, the local restaurant, the local not department store, but specialty store, the art galleries, the things that make life, Line Creek, for example.
Sure.
They're the things that make each community a community.
Yeah.
And you can go to every community in the United States and you'll find something similar, but you'll never find the same thing. And that's what really kind of makes, like, for example, Peachtree City's a great place.
It is.
And Noonan's a great place, and they're totally different.
They are.
And they're 11 miles apart and completely different. And so imagine what it's like when you finally have something that is affecting everybody that is totally different, but it's affecting us all exactly the same.
Right.
It is. It's so strange. And my whole point in having that conversation about the COVID data and stuff is that, I mean, the one, if you haven't gone all in, and I'm talking to you guys that are listening right now, our subscribers, if you haven't gone all in on a business yet, you don't understand. Because when you take everything, you roll the dice and you say, my house, my livelihood, my everything, screw it. I'm not going to work a job and I'm going all in. That is a level of stress, especially if you're an adult and you have kids and you got responsibilities. That's a level of commitment and stress and just, faith that you'll never understand unless you do it.
Yeah.
And people that do this, they do it and they build something special. And it's one of the most amazing things. Like we get people in the studio, Glenn, we get to talk to them, like people like yourself. You were on the ropes and you built this great business. So many times you get people that are like, they get to rock bottom and all of a sudden they find their way back and they're hugely successful. I love to hear, and that's what makes this economy what it is. That's what makes this country so great, is people doing that. But right now, people are being hurt and so much misinformation is being spread around, so much fear mongering by the media. And it really breaks my heart. It really does, because so often we all tend to think of ourselves in these situations, which, listen, I don't fault you if you do, because we have to. You gotta take care of yourself. But there's somebody out there that went all in, that put their kids' future on the line, that put their life savings on the line, that just went out of business because of this. And what if we find out that half of it's bullshit?
Well, worse than that,
right?
There are people. Literally. There's not an extraordinary amount of people, but one's too many. There are people who are committing suicide over this.
Yes.
Okay. There are people who are, and you mentioned, you go all in, and I've got intimate experience with that. My wife, who is our CEO, she's the principal in the business, and
very smart move, by the way.
She is extremely exactly. She is extremely angry because this was the year. I mean, this is our 10th year. We kind of bet it all 2 years ago and built this plant and did some things. And this was the year. I mean, literally our 7A SBA loan was pre-approved on March 23rd or so. Yeah. That never happened. Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but here's the thing. You talk about, you have kids and all of that. And you worry about their future. Well, I never related to it until you just said it. But I got a 25-year-old and a 24-year-old in my business who are depending upon this business being their livelihood too.
Sure.
And they gave up their college fund to build this business. I mean, literally, we sat down with them and said, you have a prepaid college fund in Florida. We want to take that money and invest it in this business. They said, we're investors. We're in. Okay. So they're on the line too. And when you think about it, if you, and maybe it's because I've been there. When you have a 5-year-old, 7-year-old, and you go belly up in a business, you got some time to recover.
Sure.
I got no time to recover. My wife has no time to recover. We're 60, almost 60. And our sons are dependent upon this being a successful business, or they're going to have to figure out how to recover for the first time in their lives at 25, 26, 27. And so, there is a lot riding on it, and small businesses are really reeling and hurting. And I think it's time for there to be a real discussion about what we're going to do as a community to save the small businesses. And I hate to say it, but I don't think anybody has a really good answer, and nobody's really talking about it. Everybody's just talking about, well, I got to wear a mask or I got to go get a COVID test. I mean, I'll give you a good example. We have 12 employees in our business, and this week we had 2 of them have to go get COVID tests because somebody in their circle has had, contact with somebody else in their circle, right?
They've already been reported to CDC as a COVID case.
Exactly. And well, I don't know about that, but
I do.
It's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me.
I know. But anyway, they have to. So when they get tested, when they say I've got to go get tested, well, first of all right, disinfect everything they've ever been around, even though we already know that it doesn't stay on hard surfaces like we thought it did. And we know it doesn't stay on textiles as long as we thought it did. But still, we do the safety thing. And then they're out of work for at least 48 hours because we got to wait till they get their test back. And here's the thing that bothers me. So they get their test back and it's negative. Well, we can come back to work. Well, what says they didn't get it in between then?
I know. It's
like,
so crazy.
It's crazy what we're doing.
But I talked to one of my friends not long ago, a couple weeks ago. Guy's in I think he's in his late 50s. And he was telling me that he thinks he's going belly up, going to lose everything. Going back to that, where's the time? It's like, this is a guy that went all in on their business and going to lose his house, business, probably bankruptcy.
130 days is a long time in the life of a small business.
Oh my God, it's an eternity.
Level
because we've talked about this. The average business has 45 days of cash on hand.
Mm-hmm.
It is an eternity. And here's a guy that's going to lose everything in his late 50s and start over. No retirement, no house, no nothing.
That's right.
And he was doing great.
Yeah.
Whose fault?
And that's
it's terrible.
And here's the problem: most small business people, they're gonna say it's their fault. They're gonna at the end of the day, they're gonna go, you know what? I did something. I must have done something wrong because if I was going to succeed, I must have done something right.
But
I don't want to blame it on something else.
But I'm here to tell you they didn't, because this happened to you. In the mask thing, going back to your comment on the masks, I think the masks it's like the canary in the coal mine. It's not really about the masks as much as it is about where do you pick your battle? Where do you put the flag in the ground and say, no, you're not doing this? Because I see this shit happening. I see people losing their entire life savings. I see people going, and having these tragic suicide because they're worried about their finances.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a guy that works for Mr. Winnie Works, and not that long ago, a couple of weeks ago, found out he was, not going to stick around long term, hung himself. One of our very good friends. It's just,
I know we're
tragic.
We're talking about a lot of tragedy, but I mean, there is a lot of opportunity here too. And I think that it's only fair that we at least bring that up.
You're right. But I do want to make this point, because one of the things that's so important is that we don't miss the gravity of the situation. We need to understand how much this impacts small businesses. And so many of them, like restaurants, we talked, we had a guest on the show a couple of weeks ago. She owns Palmer's here in Peachtree City.
I watched that one. Yeah.
Awesome discussion. They're doing really good, but how many restaurants have failed? And how many restaurants are going to fail? Well, and they were going to make it before.
So here's the thing. And maybe this is the takeaway, but somebody needs to take her, and I've forgotten her name, but is it Jennifer? Ashley. Okay, yeah. Take Ashley and kind of set her aside and say, okay, help other small restaurants understand what you did that made it to where you're doing okay and they're not. Because my bet is this, and this is what's going on in our industry. This is a race to the bottom because I'm scared. And so every business in every industry starts discounting and, whatever I got to do to drive people in here, and you eat away and eat away and eat away at the profit margin. And eventually there's no business left.
Right. Yeah. And I do think that there's opportunity in this too. And I think that, like you brought up earlier, I think there's going to be business opportunities that come up, so where, people are being knuckleheads about their business. There's an opportunity for somebody to step in and do it right.
Right.
I think there's education opportunities. And I really would like to emphasize, opportunity, and we'll talk about some of that over the next couple of months as we continue to evolve in this podcast. And I think it's really critical that we not over-index on opportunity and miss the fact that the things that we're doing that are out of our hands are crushing businesses.
Mhm.
So my goal, I pray every night, for people that I come in contact with and businesses for us to find a way. And I know people that have done really well through this, but man, it hurts me to see the people that are losing it.
It does.
Yeah.
So, Glenn, I'm going to ask you this.
Sure.
5 books. They're all out there somewhere.
Right.
Where can people find your books if they want to read them?
Okay, so the easiest way would be at my website, glengould.net. That's GLENGOULD.net. The Meet Me at Starbucks and the $1 Million Meetings are both on Amazon. I don't know what the price of the Meet Me at Starbucks is. At one point, it was $942. I love that, but I've got a screenshot of that. Yeah, but obviously, and anybody can reach out to me and get it from me personally. But I haven't really. Here's the interesting thing: the Meet Me at Starbucks. I mean, the $1 Million Meetings book was released in August of 2018, and that was just about the time that we realized that our cleaner was not going to be able to continue to serve us. And so we spent the last 19 months building a plant and getting back on track. And now, of course, COVID hit, so we haven't really promoted that part of the business at all. But I'm going to start doing that again. But
now, in the future, are you still available? Do you do speaking engagements at all anymore? Or do you put
yes,
that on?
no,
you do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So businesses can contact you in the future for speaking engagements.
Absolutely, I
at your
appreciate you
website
asking.
again.
Yep. Once again,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
We'll link to your website too in the
Great.
show notes. So if
Appreciate
you're
it.
listening and you want to know how to get a hold of Glenn and read his books, I'm looking forward to reading your book. So
Absolutely.
appreciate you bringing one in
Well,
for
thank
me.
you very much.
Yeah. And so it's glengould.net
Right.
and it's drycleaningconnections.com.
No S on the end, just dry cleaning.
Dry
Connection.
Cleaning Connection.
Yep.
We'll link to that. So if you're one of our local listeners, you definitely want to look up their website so you don't have to drive to the dry cleaner
And we've
anymore.
got a pretty big local. We go from Serenbe to Sonoy and from North Fayetteville to Moreland. So
if you're
Okay.
local, you know what that means. That's a
Yeah.
really big territory. So don't drive to the dry cleaner. That's dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah, it's like trying to protect your own
I
computers.
might even
That's
get
dumb.
some dry cleaning for the first time. in
I
my life.
really think you should
There you go.
pleat your jeans.
My jeans have plenty of wrinkles in them.
No, pleat them. You got that nice starchy pleat in the front.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
crease.
That's pretty cool.
Or
It's
crease.
a crease, not a
That's
plate.
right, he's
a
right.
plate is
It's a
different.
crease. It's not a
that's a
pleat.
crease, yeah.
Plate is
Now, there are some pleated jeans, but he's right. The
They're-
one down the leg is a crease.
Oh, sorry.
pleated
chicks-
is the bunching at the
Of
top.
course, Darren would know this because he doesn't know stuff that matters. He
You know
knows,
why? Because
like,
people always tell me that I
stuff.
wear the wrong type of pants.
No, technically, if you have a pleat, you should have a cuff in the pant.
Right.
oh, really?
Yeah.
I
A pleat is a dressier
I
look.
know.
Listen, I'm wearing shorts, okay?
So am I. I'm wearing shorts too. So
I mean,
Glenn, thank you.
yeah,
It's
we
great
appreciate
thank you
you
for
on the
having me,
show
and I really
today.
appreciate
This
it.
is
Enjoyed
great.
it very much.
So do you like the Line Creek beer?
No, I hated it. That's why I drank
Yeah,
3 of them.
of
Yeah.
course.
So we know where Glenn's going tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So tomorrow,
Absolutely.
I'll tell you guys this. Tomorrow at Line Creek, and I am wearing one of their shirts today. Thank you, Line Creek. If tomorrow they're doing a donation drive, and I don't have my notes in front of me, but I know it's for a great cause. And if you come with a jar of peanut butter and any of the other
Unopened.
unopened, any of the
Good.
other things on
That's
the
important.
list, such as a pack of underwear, socks, etc. If you bring those 2 items with you, they will give you a free pint.
If
of
you
Line Creek
if you
beer.
bring
That
a
place is gonna
pack
be
of
crowded.
if you bring a pack of underwear and peanut butter, you may get some extra questions.
You
I'm
might,
just saying.
but just tell them it's on the list of things
Unused.
that they're looking
Unused.
for.
Right.
And then on Sunday, they have the first time ever, they're going to have a farmer's market, support local.
nice.
Go. Yeah. So you can actually drink a beer and shop for local.
Drink 2
Produce
beers
and
and shop a
everything else.
lot.
There you go.
Yes.
So we want to thank Line Creek for everything they do for us. We appreciate their support and love that beer.
That was wonderful.
and Mayor Bottoms does not have authority over Peachtree City,
Yeah.
so their tap room is still open. So if you do want to
Excellent.
come have a beer
Hot damn.
at the brewery, you can. So come on out. Their beer is delicious, or you can buy it in the store, Mr. Winnie,
Absolutely. Yeah.
which is
Oh,
what we
it's,
do all the time.
And you know what you get to taste tomorrow? that they're releasing what we sampled last week on the show.
Blind Wolf.
Blind Wolf.
My God, that stuff was so good.
That's
So
kinda
we had this beer last week.
Yeah.
It's aged in
In
rum
rum barrels. Yeah, you told me. Yeah, I watched
my
that.
God,
Holy moly.
it is so good, dude. It's like rum punch and beer together, just dancing.
It's pretty heavy. It's
Yeah.
not for wusses. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
It's if you haven't if you're drinking Miller Lite, don't start with Blind Wolf. Like
Yeah.
you got to graduate.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, so we love Line Creek. So make sure you make it out to the brewery, buy it in the in your local store, and if you don't see it in your store, Mr. Money, what should you do?
Go to the tap room.
Or ask
or
them
you
to
could
get it.
pull down your mask and tell them you're going to
oh,
breathe
yeah,
on,
no,
on
grab
the
the guy-
store manager.
Grab him by the throat.
No,
and
just
say-
cough on them. Hey, do you have any Line Creek?
Tell him to
I'll
get
have it
Line
tomorrow.
Creek or else.
Next time I'll wear a mask in here. If you have Line Creek.
Anyway,
I hope Darren gets because he's coughing on
He's
Darren
just
when he
coughing
does
on me
this.
all day.
Gosh, that's just
I know.
brutal.
Well,
It is.
you know,
It is.
I know I've got the antibody.
What if you have different viruses like on your computer? Then what do you do?
Well, you are screwed. So the point is you need to prevent the viruses. So if you have a computer in your business, which Glenn, if you don't have a computer in your business,
No, we've got
probably
several.
don't have a business. I mean,
We've
I'm just
got
saying
several.
you should be protected. You should have Overwatch technology. If I bought a software package from Russia that was supposed to protect me from Russia,
Yeah, those are the best.
that would be really
No.
No.
Yeah.
No.
that would not be goodly. Frankly, okay, that would be
Goodly.
dub.
You know,
It would-
that's your best
Yeah,
friend,
you should-
Mr. Bowden.
You should not do that. So you should absolutely reach out to Overwatch. Go to www.overwatch.technology, and don't use the Russians.
Don't
And-
use the Russians.
Yeah, don't use the Russians. Darren, what are you doing?
I think he's wrapping it up.
I think
No, you
are we
messed up the
done,
screen.
Darren?
It timed us out.
The TV said we're done.
All right.
Well, folks, we appreciate you tuning in. Glenn, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank
It's been
you.
a
I
pleasure.
really
man.
enjoyed it.
Really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better.
Thanks so much.